and welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. Normally I make gardening tutorial videos, but sometimes I make videos showing you how to use up or preserve your harvest. I've been harvesting basketfuls of eggplant and I thought to show you guys how to make moussaka. It's a delicious way to use up a lot of eggplant. If you struggle to grow eggplant, check out my how to grow eggplant from seed to harvest video tutorial, which is linked in the description below. Moussaka is a Mediterranean dish that is basically like a lasagna without pasta. Instead of pasta, you add layers of eggplant or other veggies like potatoes or zucchini. So it's a great way to use up a lot of veggies from your garden. Do you have any awesome recipes for eggplant? If so, please let me know in the comments below because I definitely need them. My eggplants are going to produce for many more months, and this is the fourth basket of eggplants that I have harvested in about 3 months. If you want to grow these same eggplants that you see here, I do have seeds on my website. This variety is called Black Beauty, and this lovely lavender variety is called Rosa Bianca. There are three main components to moussaka: a meat sauce like a bolognese, a creamy bechamel sauce, and then layers of eggplant and or other veggies depending on what you decide. Now, I realize it sounds like a lot of work, but I have some tricks to speed this up. And the good thing is this recipe makes a huge batch, so there is a lot of food. You can make 2 trays and freeze one for use later. To begin, gather all of the ingredients, which I list out in the description below, and set the oven to bake at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. First, I'm gonna prep all of the veggies, thinly slice the eggplant, and we have to soak it in some heavily salted water because that helps remove the bitterness. I have this full of water and I'm just gonna add like 3 tablespoons of salt. I'm using about 3 large eggplants here and about 6 to 8 potatoes. You're gonna wanna slice the eggplant lengthwise because you want them to be kind of like long sheets, similar to lasagna sheets. Probably the number one thing that people ask me with eggplant is which one is not so bitter, like what variety or cultivar is less bitter. Honestly, I think they all have some level of bitterness, but when you grow it at home, you can harvest it when they're more on the young and tender side, which means it has less bitterness. And every time I cook with them, after I slice them up however I need to, I soak them in the salt water, which also removes a lot of that bitterness. These slices are about a 1/4 inch thick. Look at that, I only cut up one and it's already so much eggplant. Seriously, 1 or 2 eggplants can feed a whole family. And all of these came off the same plant. Okay, so we're gonna soak them. Make sure you separate each piece of eggplant so every side is exposed to the salt water. Push them all in there. Soak them for at least 30 minutes. If you can do longer, even better, like up to 2 hours. They have a tendency to float, so I like to get another plate and put it on top of here so it kind of pushes them down underneath the water. All right, so set this aside and start working on the rest of the veggies. All right, so next we're gonna peel the potatoes. It is optional, but I really like the texture better when you peel them. And I'm using yellow potatoes, but really you could use any kind of potato. Once your potatoes are peeled, you're also going to slice them about 1/4 inch thick slices lengthwise. Place the potatoes into another bowl, but you're not gonna submerge them in water. I want these slices to be as dry as possible. Separate each piece. You're gonna add a bunch of salt and pepper and mix it with olive oil. It's very important that you season every layer of this moussaka well, even the vegetables. All right, so now we have to prep the rest of the veggie ingredients. I have some onions, some bell pepper, and some tomatoes. For chopping up all of these veggies, I really like to use a food chopper like this one. It works great, and it will cut all of these different vegetables at the same size. I like to remove the core out of any of the tomatoes before I chop them up, and obviously the seeds and everything and the core out of the peppers. These peppers, tomatoes, and onions are for the meat sauce, so it's okay to dice them up and mix them together. In my recipe, I do list 1 large onion, but I love onions a lot, so I'm gonna add 2. And you can use whatever kind of onion you like: yellow, sweet, white, red. I'm using red onions. All right, so these have been soaking for an hour. Now it's time to drain them. Once the eggplant is done soaking, you're gonna layer down some paper towels because we have to get each slice as dry as possible. And use some more paper towels to pat the other side. You want these slices to be as dry as possible so that they cook better. I covered up quite a few cookie sheets or just regular baking sheets with aluminum foil to make cleanup easier. Now, the next step is totally up to you on how you want to do it. The goal is to cook the veggie slices through, in my case, the eggplant and the potatoes, so they're not raw. You don't want to assemble the moussaka with raw vegetables. The final baking step at the very end is not to cook the layers through, but instead it's just to brown the top layers of cheese. So each ingredient layer has to be cooked. You can pan fry them, deep fry them, grill them, air fry them, or roast them, which is what I'm going to do because I feel like the roasting option is the easiest since I can cook them all at once. And for me, that's kind of like the shortcut to preparing this moussaka. So that is why I tossed the potato slices with olive oil, salt, and pepper because I knew I was going to be roasting this. We're going to do the same thing with the eggplant. I'm going to brush them with some olive oil on each side and then add some salt and pepper. I like to brush each side with the olive oil instead of mixing it all in a bowl and then tossing it with the olive oil, salt, and pepper like I did with the potatoes because eggplants absorb liquid super fast. So if I put them all in a bowl, pour olive oil on it, literally they absorb a lot of that olive oil in one spot before I have a chance to like mix everything. So that's why I'm going the extra step of brushing on this olive oil. Now you don't have to add this olive oil and all that. You could seriously just bake it as is, but I find that it helps give it more of like a roasted, grilled type of flavor and just throwing it in there without the olive oil, salt, and pepper. All right, so sprinkle some salt, followed by the pepper. I'm going to transfer each slice onto a cookie sheet, but I'm going to flip over the side that I already brushed on with the olive oil. Flip it over, that way I can brush more olive oil, salt and pepper and all that on the other side. All right, we flipped them all over onto the trays. Now I'm going to put olive oil, salt and pepper on the other side. And be generous because these can soak up a lot of oil. And we're going to do the same thing with potatoes, just line them up in one single layer. The cooking time is going to vary depending on the kind of potatoes and eggplant you're using and how thinly you slice. While everything is roasting, we're going to work on our meat sauce and the bechamel. Cook the ground beef until it's thoroughly cooked. I like to use a potato smasher to get my ground beef all separated into nice little pieces. Once the beef is all browned up, add the onions, peppers, and tomatoes. We're also going to add in the minced garlic. I really like garlic, so I'm going to put like 3 heaping tablespoons. Mix everything up, and then we're going to put the lid on it to let this cook down for 10 minutes. We just want the veggies to soften up. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes. Most of the water has evaporated, so we're going to deglaze with a little bit of red wine. Next, we're going to add the tomato paste. I find it's a lot easier to mix in tomato paste when it's still, just ground up meat. If you start putting in the beef broth and other stuff, the tomato paste clumps get kind of lost in there and it just becomes harder to break it all apart. One of the main features about the meat sauce for moussaka is that it has to be thick. It cannot be watered down, kind of like regular pasta sauce. So that's why we use tomato paste. As you can see, this is a much thicker type of sauce. Now we're going to add all of the seasonings for the meat sauce: salt, pepper, cinnamon, allspice. Mix it all in. Now, I said this is supposed to be a thick sauce, which is correct, but this is too thick. So we're going to add a little bit of beef broth just to make it a little more saucy. The amount of beef broth will vary, so just eyeball it. This is the consistency I'm looking for. It's like a very thick bolognese. All right, I think I'm done, but you have to taste test it because like I said, every single layer needs to be properly seasoned. It has really good flavor, but I think it could use a little bit more salt. And again, you're going to season this to your liking. All right, the meat sauce is done, and now we're going to take it off the heat and just set it aside. Now we're going to start working on the bechamel. We're going to start by melting down a stick of butter. We're going to add in the seasonings, salt, pepper, and nutmeg. And then half a cup of flour because we're making a roux. Whisk this very quickly to make the roux. The roux is ready when it's really bubbly and fluffy looking. Next, we're going to start pouring in the milk. This is 3 cups of milk. And let me just explain a little trick here. To make this bechamel, you're going to add 2 egg yolks into the whole mixture. I'm going to pour 2 out of 3 cups of this milk into the bechamel right now. Leave the remaining cup in here so that I can stir in my egg yolks and kind of loosen them up so that when I pour them in here, I don't scramble the egg yolks. So I've mixed in 2 out of 3 of the cups. Let's pour our egg yolks into here and then mix this up. The egg yolks just add an extra bit of creaminess to your bechamel sauce. Stir this really quickly as you pour in the egg yolk and milk mixture. This bechamel sauce looks nice and creamy. I think it's done, but I'm gonna taste it. Make sure you like the flavor. I think it needs a little more salt and nutmeg. I like the flavor of the bechamel, so now I'm just gonna add like a big handful of shredded mozzarella cheese. Now I'm checking on the veggies. It took me like 50 minutes for these to be roasted enough to the point that I like. It's finally time to assemble everything. Start with a layer of potatoes first because the potatoes will soak up all of the juices from our sauce. Then we're gonna sprinkle on some cheese. Basically, you're gonna put a little bit of cheese in between each layer. Follow that with the eggplant. Repeat each layer of potato, eggplant, and cheese until you've used up all the veggies. Now we're gonna put a layer of the meat sauce. Now we're gonna put a layer of the bechamel sauce. Sprinkle some more cheese on top and it's ready to bake. Set the oven to 450 degrees so that way you can bake this for a little bit just until the cheese is nice and golden. All right, the cheese is nice and melted and golden. Let this sit for at least 30 minutes to cool down just a little bit before you decide to slice into it. If you were to slice into it right now, it's so hot that all of the liquids would just pour right out. Finally, cut into this. Look at all those layers of veggies. This was so delicious. I don't even miss the pasta. Get a little bit of that eggplant and potato. This is great. It doesn't even seem like I'm eating a bunch of eggplant, for real. This is a great recipe to use up a lot of eggplant. And there you have it, moussaka. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more inspiration on what to do with all the veggies harvested from your garden. I hope you enjoyed following along with me today, and thank you for watching.